Welcome to Positive Talk Radio. Our goal is simple, to explore evolving ideas one conversation at a time. So, stay with us as right now we present. Sometimes do you feel like stress is taking over your life? Do you feel like it's really hard for you to settle down and to just relax and be? And because you've got so much going on in your mind, you've got to pick up the kids, you've got to get the groceries, you've got to do this, and you've got to go do that and stuff. We've got a guest today that's going to help you kind of calm down just a little bit. And she is an expert in meditation practices. And she's got her website, which is hamiltonmeditationgroup.ca or .com, depending upon how you want to do it. And she is extraordinarily talented at what she does, and we're happy to have her on the show. Her name is Allison Liss, and Allison, welcome to Positive Talk. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Kevin. Thank you so much for inviting me on your show.
Oh, this is so much fun. We're gonna have a really, really good time, because not only are you a meditation teacher and practicer of note, you also were, I believe in your bio, it says you were the youngest sales manager for a major department store or a retail outlet when you were just 28 years old. That was last year, I do believe.
Well, it was some time ago, but yes, I was the national sales director. So we had 300 stores and all across Canada. So it was a very well-known chain in Canada. And it was unisex denim. Basically, I was a denim, I was into jeans. And yeah, so I had 2,200 employees. I was really quite young, but I started there when I was young. And at 19, I started as just one store manager, and my store just really took off. And the owners, of course, found out about me because of that. And we only had 30 stores when I first started. And then as the company grew, I got moved up and eventually became the national sales manager. So for my age, I was the youngest in Canada at that time. Yeah.
Well, I tell you, you may have been the youngest, but it takes a great deal of talent to be able to manage 2,200 people and 300 stores, and it had exponential growth during the time that you were there. So, and not only that, you also opened up your own store after that, and you did some great things there as well.
Yes, I had a store in Toronto, and it again, it's kind of oddly enough when I left my job, I just thought I'm going to do something a little bit more simple. It had a lot to do with my personal life, really. And I just thought I'll just open up one store and it'll be quiet. And I knew I could easily run one store. And I had this very interesting, unique concept, and I opened it. And the next thing you know, we're like this huge success. All the media in Toronto basically were all over me, and I was as busy with that one store as I had ever been in running 300. It was really as busy or more, because now I was in charge of everything, of course, the buying and the other end of the business. Up until then, I was mostly in charge of the personnel. But so that part I had down pat, which is actually the hardest part: hiring the employees, training the employees, managing the employees. So that part I was very good at, and I had to learn the other parts. And we were very successful. We were featured in People magazine as like the coolest store to shop in Toronto, and yeah, it was a great experience. Actually, I loved it.
Well, good for you. Now, my family, I grew up in retail. My dad was a manager at Nordstrom.
That's my favorite department store.
Oh, well, I'm sorry they just left Canada.
I know. Well, I had a feeling they weren't going to make it here, but that's a whole nother story. But the first time I ever went into a Nordstrom's, I was so impressed with the staff and how they treated you, the service that was available at that department store. And I used to study it a lot, actually, when I was in my own chain store running things. And I used to always say, like, why can't we get everything like Nordstrom's? They're so good. Yeah.
Well, my family goes back all the way to the original John Nordstrom, when he was there. Then he had his three sons, which are Lloyd, Everett, and John, I believe. No, Bruce, and then the third generation after that. And my dad worked there for 30 years, but so I and my sister worked for Nordstrom for 30 years as well. It didn't take for me because
Yeah.
those people, you guys in retail have to work way too hard and too many hours. It was amazing to me that he worked 6 days a week for his entire adult life.
Yeah.
And it was hard, but that's what he felt he had to do, and Nordstrom at the end of the day took very good care of him.
Yes. Well, retail is obviously not for everybody, but I think for those of us that click with it and like it and are successful there, it's a fantastic career, actually. I think it
It
keeps you young too.
well, it's either that or it's going to bury you, one of the
Yeah,
two,
that's true.
because
Yeah.
there are a lot of people that did not take to it as quite as well,
Yeah.
and it's got to be in your blood, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree.
But
I also grew up my father was a manager of a furniture store. And so the talk of retail was in my family when I was very young. So I understood. I was I was given a very strong work ethic, and I think that's partly why I did well in retail. I was not afraid to work hard. I enjoyed it, and yeah, the hours were. I never even looked at the clock. I used to even say, like, to my husband at the time, I was like, okay, I'll be home in an hour. Eventually he learned that was just not true. Because an hour, the next thing you know, I'd be 3 hours later. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm still here. Like time just flew and I loved what I did. So, but yeah.
well, my retail days go so far back. They go to my grandfather, who was a traveling shoe salesman. And
Okay.
so he would, in those days, it's hard to believe today, but in those days, he had an Electra 225, big old boat of a car. And he would put his samples in the trunk, and he would give my grandmother a kiss goodbye, and he'd show up 6 weeks later
Yeah.
because he was driving to every small town to talk to the shoe store that was in there. And in fact, when my dad started with Nordstrom's, they were just a shoe store.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, they bought on best retail. They bought them in the, I want to say, late '60s, somewhere in there. And by the way, for those of you who don't know, it is Thanksgiving, and Holly says Thanksgiving to us, and I hope that she's having an awesome time. They have a tradition in her house. She's a friend of mine. She has a tradition in her house where they play 80s and 90s video games, which I call those current video games. They call them old. But in any event, so my dad went to work at Nordstrom's when they were just a shoe store, and in the University District, and then they bought Nordstrom Best, or they bought Best, became Nordstrom Best, and then they ended up becoming just Nordstrom.
Okay.
And so he was really part of their growth period, like you were,
Yeah.
going from 30 stores to 300. That's remarkable. And the reason that I bring all of that up is that because you are a worker and you work a lot, you're now teaching meditation. That must have been a really 360 degree shift for you from being work, 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 work. I got to do this, and having to being able to say, and now we're going to calm down and we're going to clear our mind and we're going to relax and stuff. How did that transformation come for you?
Well, you could say in a way that I spent my whole life really running at 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
It was just the energy that I have. And I didn't think much. It wasn't thoughtful, my approach to life. I was a doer. And I would just say I ran at 100 miles an hour until I eventually hit a brick wall.
Mm.
And I just had a lot of issues that came up for me personally, professionally. And I was forced to slow down. And during that time, I read a lot of books, trying to find peace for myself. And in so doing, it kind of started me on what you could call a spiritual journey, something else that I was really not. Um, Although most people that knew me would always say, "Oh, you're very spiritual." I never saw myself that way. I was raised by my parents were my father was Jewish and my mother was Catholic, and they were both they were both quite steadfast in their positions. And so there was a lot of talk of religion in my house, and I mean I loved both religions. And the idea of religion, you could say, but I never felt that I myself was really religious. And in fact, it was during my kind of quest to I remember just sitting out in my backyard one time and thinking, like, should I be a Jewish person? Should I be a Catholic person? Should I be doing this religious thing? Is this why I've run into, some roadblocks in my life? And 2 weeks later, I ended up at this place called Vipassana, the OVC, Ontario Vipassana Center. And this is a place, it's a silent 10-day retreat. They're all over the world. We have 3 in Canada. And luckily for me, one of them is about 2 hours or 3-hour drive from where I live. And I ended up there and got all the answers that I was looking for in a deep state of meditation. I had never meditated before, by the way. I was just I'm going to say suffering mentally. That feeling where if you look around, like everything physical seems to be fine, like your life is good, you don't appear to have necessarily problems, but I did not feel that way. I've some people could describe it as a depression. I don't know if I would describe it as that way, but I just was not feeling good. I'm going to say that. Like my outside life, I did not feel as good as I guess I should have, and I couldn't understand, like, why do I not, feel happy? And anyway, I thought that I needed to just get away. And I thought maybe I just need to go on a retreat. So I start like Google searching like different places. At first I think, oh, maybe I'm going to go like just camping or something like that. I just wanted to get away. And I ended up just finding this website. I knew nobody that had ever gone. I knew nothing about it. I registered and got into this 10-day silent retreat. And it was funny, actually. The night before I was leaving, a friend of mine called me and he goes, I was looking at this retreat you're going on. He goes, are you sure you're prepared for this? This is like a heavy duty, like meditation thing. He goes, like, I don't know if you're going to be able to even, you can't talk for 10 days. How are you going to do it? And I said, well, I didn't really look. And the schedule is quite, we meditate for 14 hours a day. And so the schedule is sort of grueling, I guess, daunting. And I said, well, listen, I never really looked that closely at it, but I'm registered. I've cleared my schedule, which, by the way, at the time I had two teenagers. I mean, and so it wasn't easy to clear 10 days off because it's not just 10 days of silence. Like you cannot be notified by phone.
Right.
You're cut off from everything. So you don't bring a piece of paper, a pencil, a book, nothing. And so for me to be able to get away for 10 days where nobody would be able to contact me or anything wasn't easy. So I said, well, I've made all these arrangements. Like I'm not bailing out now. And so I went up there and changed my life. I had,
No, there was another gentleman that I've interviewed, and his name is G. Scott Graham, and he did the same thing. I don't know. You may have been in the same class. He's done it several times, and he's a very, very spiritual man. And we were talking about it, and it was like, didn't anybody tell you that you weren't going to be talking for like 10 days, and you weren't going to be doing anything? And and he was like, no, and they're deadly serious about it. It's not like. Well, if you talk, that's okay. It's like, no, nobody talks. As a matter of fact, they were at the mealtime one time, and somebody passed gas, and they farted right there in the cafeteria, and nobody even cracked a smile.
yeah. You're not even supposed to make eye contact. Like they even tell you, like if you pass another person on the trail or whatever, just put your like gaze down at the ground because they want to simulate an experience that you are there alone and that there is no one else. And this is kind of what it takes. The man that started it, S.N. Goenka, he spent years trying to figure out how to help people have the experience that I ultimately had, and he came to the conclusion after many years of trial, with many people, thousands and thousands of people, and all over the world, that this was the best formula to try to help a person have what he calls a direct experience with your true nature. And that happened to me on the 8th day. So I'm sitting there in meditation, and the next thing you know, I describe it as like my mind just basically shut off. And I just was, all I could feel was my soul. And my true nature was shocking to me, because I was beautiful. I was intelligent, completely connected to the nature around me and all people. It was something I had never felt that way, because I actually never felt that way. I never thought I was good looking enough. I never thought that I was working hard enough or smart enough. So I was always trying really hard in life, and so to have that experience, it just changed everything. And what happened to me is, when I left there, I thought to myself, wow, every person needs to come to this place. And then almost immediately after I had that thought, I had the thought, I don't know anybody that's going to come to this place.
Well, it's like you did what in 10 days? Are you kidding?
Yeah.
You
Now
know,
I have to say, not everybody has the experience that I had. It's some people call it a satori, or it's like the holy grail of meditation, where that does happen to you. So I felt kind of a sense of responsibility, that now that I had this information, that we are peace. That peace is not a place to get to. It's your natural state. That you are beautiful. That everything is good is the natural position. And then what happens is, though, we are so attached to the mind, we're actually addicted to it, and we're addicted to our patterns. And so that's why we can't experience it. So, or why we generally do not experience it. And so I spent the next 15 years trying to see if I could develop a meditation technique that could help people get to that experience without having to, squirrel away for 10 days and cut yourself off from society. And I started teaching this technique, and it's really just a sequence. And many of my students, not all of them, had the same experience. And some of them that sat with me said, I've sat in meditation for 30 years and I never had this experience. Now, the other thing I should add is, what I did learn is that experience is not necessarily the goal. What happens is, when you meditate a lot, it does change you metaphysically. And so the idea is not necessarily we're not meant to live in that existence of that. It's just the truth of life. But the human existence is different. We're here on this planet to experience almost not being in that state, so that we figure out how to get there. And it's in the figuring out and following your path that all the good things happen. So if you look at it like this, like, in a way, it was like it was a moment of enlightenment, you could say.
I was just going to say that you said enlightenment is another term for the term that you used.
Satori.
Satori, yeah, which is, I believe Satori means enlightenment.
Yes. It's yeah, so it was a moment, and now how long it lasted for me is hard to say, but I'm going to say a few hours.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, even Goenka explains, because of course I fell into the trap, like, which was to chase that. So initially I thought, oh, this is the state that I should be always in, every day, 24 hours a day. And I'm doing something wrong if I'm not in that state. And so I went back to Vipassana several times, not only to sit the course, but also to volunteer up there, which is part of the program, and kind of looking to have that experience again, and come to find out that that is not what you're supposed to do. what you're supposed to do with the information is just knowing that that's your true nature. And then the rest of your life is the investigation of, okay, if that's my true nature, like, what am I doing that I'm not, that, like, what else is going on that what we call the human experience. And so having that information is a beautiful thing, you could say. But obviously, I do not live in that state on a daily basis. Um, and I'm not meant to. What I'm meant to do, and what we all are, is to experience the human experience of emotions that come and go, thoughts that come and go, breath that comes and goes until it doesn't, and to kind of alchemize it all, I guess you could say. And as a result, it doesn't mean that I don't have problems and I don't go through moments where I'm out of my mind, but um, I'm I'm way more centered. There's when I'm experiencing life's trials and tribulations, there is a part of me that I can tap into that's actually at peace. So even though I'm experiencing all the other things, um, I'm grounded.
Grounded is a great word to use.
Yeah,
It's a great word to use.
yeah, I call it, I'm more of an observer. And so there's
Yeah,
a part of myself that is witnessing the other part of myself. And so it's in that ability to witness yourself freaking out, being sad, being mad, being happy, whatever that is. If you are able to witness yourself doing those things, let's just say the power they have over you is not that much. So it's there, but I could, like, the grip, like it used to have a grip on me where I thought I was that madness, or I thought I was
yeah.
experiencing, I am upset, or I am depressed, or I am anxious. Now I can separate that. Yes, there's a part of me that's anxious, but there's a part of me that is observing it. And when you're able to do that through learning this meditation technique the sequence that I teach people, the power it has on you, the grip, let's say the grip it has on you is just lighter, and it passes, like you're not in it for like a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. It's more momentary.
I attribute it very similar to Lee, very similarly, like, sorry, English is my second language, um, to near death experience, and I'll tell you why. In a lot of people that have had near death experience, they go to the other side. They experience nothing but pure love, pure bliss. They understand that that's home. That's where we come from, and that's where we're going to return to. But then they come back here because their work isn't done in many cases, and so they learn. And I'd like to think I'm on the path of learning this, is that the experiences that we have here are by our own design, that we developed before we even got here. And we did it for the specific reason of learning the lessons that are presented to us in this life, so that we can become more than, and we become who we really are. Does that make any sense at all to you?
Yes, it does. In fact, one of the descriptions I would have of when I was in that state was that we are energy. Like,
Yes,
basically, my body was not even in existence. I mean, I could look at it and see it, but it wasn't. It was, I could just feel myself as pure energy, and I would say it is the energy of love,
yes,
and nothing else. And that
yes,
there actually, the reality is there is nothing else.
yes. I agree with you 100%. And that is a very hard concept for some people to understand when they say, my life is in the crapper, and I've got this and I got that. And they take it to a level that that's all they end up believing, that's all there is. That's all they can be, rather than going through some exercises like your program that you work with, and help people understand that no, this isn't all there is, and that's not that it's something that you're here to learn, and you can benefit from all the experiences that you have in your life, and that's all by divine design, at least from my perspective. How about yours?
Yes, I would totally agree with you. Um, and you are here to discover it. In fact, I don't feel like the people that come to me are like I find it's all quite purposeful. Like the right people find me,
Yep.
um, and you have to kind of be ready. Like the other thing is I can't say to a person, you're just love, that's all it is, and then convince them. Like it doesn't work like that. But you have to experience it for yourself. And that's why when you were saying earlier, which I think is so true, it's what it does have to do with what you believe. And that's the difference between when you're a meditator, you know that you might feel let's say emotions of depression or anxiety, but you don't believe them. You know that they are moments. So you might say, okay, I'm feeling this kind of anxious feeling, but I don't believe that I'm anxious. I'm just experiencing this. And so that is like the difference between what I would call a person that is benefiting from the correct meditations. That's the difference in how we live. It's really an art of how to live. It doesn't stop problems from coming. In fact, I will say this. I used to call it like this. In some ways, the path is 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Because over the years, I've been doing this for years, like 15 years or so now, teaching it. And I myself have had times where I went, I kind of retreated, if you will. And then
Mhm.
I even wonder, can I believe my own bullshit? Like, because now I'm back in it, and I'm thinking, and you think, that's why it's really funny. My friend calls it the spiritual high horse. And she'll say, oh, be careful of the spiritual high horse because it's quite a fall. So it's when you start thinking that you've got it all figured out and now you're going to be like smooth sailing from here. And then all of a sudden life circumstances happen and it's something that is you cannot handle, and you can find yourself right back to where you were before you ever meditated. And then you think, maybe I'm wrong about everything I'm saying, but no, you're almost meant to go back so that you can climb your way back out again. But what I try to explain to people is that it is a forward path. It's just sometimes 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. And you just have to stay the course. Just like everything, like you were saying earlier in retail, don't give up. That's the key. You just stay the course. Don't throw it out. And I've had many periods where, I'm not meditating for, a few weeks. And then I just realized, okay, I got to get back to my practice. And then sure enough, when I'm back in my practice, you have more insights. What happens in meditation is that once you quiet the mind, you give a chance for your soul to speak.
Yes. That's
And when that happens, it's reassuring you. It's kind of letting you know that, you're on the right path, but it doesn't mean it's not rocky or it's not, like, I call it a roller coaster. I mean, this life, I can speak for myself. It's been a roller coaster. And
I
so,
call it the bad country music song period.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
We have you
Yeah.
have one of those. One of my I had a gentleman. His name is James Arthur Ray. You may know of him. He was in The Secret, the movie.
Yeah. Yep.
And he was all that in a bag of chips. He had at one time 1 million followers. He said he had $20 million in the bank. I have no reason to dispute that because he was traveling all over the world, giving lectures and so forth, and retreats. He was having a retreat in Arizona, and one of the things they did is they went to a sweat lodge. Well, for whatever reason, in that sweat lodge during his retreat, 3 people died, which is a tragic thing, and he felt it was a tragic thing. But he was then charged with manslaughter. So he went from being on top of the world, thinking he was a guru that everybody should follow, and then he ended up in prison for 2 years. He came out of prison, he had nothing. He was $20 million in debt. And so what he did is he recognized that he isn't a guru and he isn't all that in a bag of chips, but he did have a legitimate thing that he could help people help themselves, which is what it's all about. That's
Yeah.
what you do when you help people through their meditation practices. You're not bestowing them anything other than the guide map of how to do it for themselves and to live their life to the best that they can, based upon what they learned during that meditation. Is that a fair assessment?
I would say so. In fact, that's one of the strategies that I have. I rarely, like, of course, I'm on here talking, and I do love talking, but I'm just trying to spread, trying to help people find peace. Basically, I think my time is here, and and I feel called to do so. But I don't usually talk to people when they come to sit with meditation with me. I don't have anything to say really. I just start right in at the technique and teach them the technique and show them the technique. The course that I sell it now on my website. And I just call it the course. It's like 5 audio files, and it's basically just teaching people to meditate. And so I talk them through it. I give instruction, because meditation is not just sitting in silence. Of course, that's part of it, but there are things that you're actually doing. It's basically directing your awareness from one place to another. And so I give the instruction, but I try to stay away from explaining to people the philosophy, why meditation works, why I think they should do it. Like, I try to stay away from all that and just say, just learn to meditate and practice it. And then later, when they've had their own insights, then I do enjoy speaking with them and sharing our stories. But in the beginning, I'm not a lecturer. I'm not somebody that does explain it. But what you were saying about that gentleman, it's so true. And I would say that about almost every person that's on this path, that at some point you find yourself where you realize you are, is the word fallible? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, Tony Robbins is also the same story. Like, most people know him as being like this huge success and somebody that maybe, I always say it's not like one rocket ship ride to the top. I mean, if you know his story, he was actually super successful, very well known, doing his thing, and ended up finding out that he had an associate, I believe it was his accountant, that was stealing all the money from him. And here he's going around projecting himself as a guy that's got it all. And in the meantime, the truth of his life was he had no money in the bank. And he had to get a grip on himself too. And his story is that even made him better, because then you have to dig deeper. And that is part of it. It's about how we get up, isn't it?
It is. It's not a matter of everybody falls. Everybody's going to fall. It's how you get up and what you do from there. Because you can figure out how and why you fell. But if you don't make the changes necessary in your life or in the circumstances around you to keep yourself from doing it again, guess what, kids? You're going to fall again.
Yeah. I call it like it's life's roadmap.
Yeah.
And so that's teaching you, you turned left and really you missed the turn. And so now you have to just go back to the beginning, and this time you're going to turn the other way. Or maybe there's a person you need to meet that's going to be, because that's another thing I always say, like, you're not, I don't look at things as time. I always say, like, you're not a certain amount of time away from where you want to be. You could be a person away, one experience away from what is the thing that's going to click for you. And so when these things happen, I call it, it's the roadmap. It's beautiful. It's like, okay, you're being guided and directed actually at all times. And so if you need to meet a person, or you need to go through an experience or read the right book, something will happen to you that will force you, because you might not otherwise have done so. It'll force you to, get on the path where that person is, that teacher or whatever, or that partner, or whatever is the thing that you need.
And if you will, and I've been doing this quite a bit lately in my own life, it really is fascinating. Every person that has meant a great deal to me, that has come and gone out of my life, has left me with a very, very important lesson, including my high school sweetheart, who I haven't talked to in 40 years, the guy who got me involved with the community college where I took acting and met my wife and subsequently had my kids. Haven't talked to him in 30 years. The gentleman who got me started in radio, he said to me one time, because we were doing exactly what you were doing, in that I had doubts about, I grew up Lutheran and stuff, but I didn't feel fulfilled. I didn't feel like, why am I really here? What am I really here to do? And at one point in our spiritual journey, he said, hey, let's do a television show. And I said, I don't think we can do that, but I'll look at it. And we couldn't, but we could do radio. And so in 2003, I started a show called Positive Talk Radio, and I did it 2 hours a day, 5 days a week for a year. Loved every minute of it, and that led me to this. And every person in my life that has come and then gone, they're part of my soul family. I firmly believe that they're the folks that helped me, and we conspired to do this together. And so those experiences happen to all of us. But if you're not aware of it, then they just pass by and you don't catch it. Does that make sense? I'm sure you've had some of those.
Yes, it totally does. I was just going to say, like, we've actually never done anything. Like, we think that we are smart and we've accomplished things and we've made things happen. And if you really look at your life and the facts of it, it's been somebody has helped you.
Yeah.
Somebody gave you a break, or somebody taught you a lesson, or, it's always that. Like, I used to think, oh, well, I climbed, from the bottom of my company to the top of my company. I thought, no, I didn't. I actually I had a boss that actually, took a liking to me, and he actually just gave me a promotion, and that's what got me to the next level. So whenever I think that I've done something, I realize, oh my goodness, I haven't actually. Somebody has come in and helped me in one way or in another. And I would say that about everybody, like even the jobs that we get, it's usually something has happened for us. It's not necessarily that we have created some great situation. It's that, yeah, you could be in the right place at the right time, or you could be obviously getting up and moving the energy, I call it. Like, that's why I always say, like, just move the energy. And you could be doing those things. But the great things that happen to you, if you look at them, it was always because something happened for you. It wasn't that you made it.
It's a very egotistical viewpoint if you think I'm self-made, I did it all, and even when you have CEOs of companies that say, I shouldn't be taxed. I've self-made my company, but the roads to get the employees to the factory were bought and paid for by taxes and by other people and stuff like that. So nobody does it on their own. If you think you've done it on your own, you are delusional, because you can't do it without a community of like-minded people or spirits on the other side, or the driving force that it helps you. And when you do the work that you're talking about doing, it becomes more clear. Doesn't it just clear it up for you?
Yes. Like, in fact, like, I would even say with my meditation, I didn't necessarily set out to think, oh, I'm going to teach meditation to everybody. I was working in a store that my daughter and I owned, and I had been back from my meditation retreat, and I think I was, I had something changed in me, and a woman came in the shop one day, and she was a regular customer, and she said, oh, I just love your energy. Like, how is it that you've got such a great attitude about life? It's wonderful. I wish I had your attitude. And I just said to her, and I don't even know why I said it. I go, oh, it's because I'm a meditator. And she's like, what? And she goes, I said, I think it's because I'm a meditator. And she said, well, can you show me how to do meditation? And I said, well, I can try, because at that time I'm thinking what I had to learn, I had to go away for 10 days and do all of that. So I said, I can show you what I do. And so she said, well, could you come, to my house? I mean, I said, sure, let me help you out. She was a lovely person, a nice customer of ours. And so I went to her house, and she enjoyed it. And then she said, can you come back next week? And I said, yes. And then she said, and after about me coming to her place about 6 or 7 times, she said, Allison, like, I really feel like this is helping me. She said, I feel a little different, and I'm doing all the instructions you gave me, and it's having an effect on my life. She goes, would you mind if I invited my sister? Because I think she could use some help. And I said, yes, bring your sister. And so she brought her sister. The next thing you know, I've got her and her sister. And then they said, oh, we have a friend. Our friend would like to join, if you don't mind. I said, no, bring your friend. The next thing you know, I've got like a group of 8 people. Like, it's not like I started it out. And then one day when I had this group of 8 people, and I think I mentioned it earlier, one of the women had the same experience that I had by following this sequence. And she said to me, Allison, I've been meditating for 30 years and I've never had that. She said, but I've never meditated in the way that you are explaining it. And so she goes, you got to show this to as many people as you can. Like, I think it's beautiful. And so that's literally how it happened. It wasn't, oh, and I would do it for free. That was the other thing. For like 8 years, I never charged anybody because I had a clothing business. Like, that was my job. And this I was just doing to help other people. And then when that woman had that experience, I really thought, oh, this is wonderful. I can do this. And then one day they were coming, and I set up a little meditation studio in the first floor of my home. And then one day, one of the women came and she said, "Oh, you know what? I don't know if I can come back here because we come here to your home every week, every Monday. It was called Monday Meditation." And she said, "And I'm starting to feel guilty because you don't want us to give you anything." And she goes, "I don't mind once in a while, but if I'm going to come here every week, just at least open up like a donation box or something. Like, let me bring you a gift or something." She said, "Otherwise, I don't feel comfortable just taking from you like this." And I said, "Sure, bring me whatever you want." And so I won't stop you. And so, they would bring me, incense, or they would bring me, crystals to put in the room, or a sound bowl I got as a gift one time, and, salt lamps. And the next thing you know, my meditation room turned into like this beautiful room that everyone loved coming to. And that's literally how it started. And yeah.
Well, and I would like to submit to folks that say, "Oh, come on, you're just meditating and you're charging people." There's an energy exchange that also is important for us to consider. In that, when in energy, money is energy, and when you are giving something of value away for free, then your energy is not being met on an equal basis from somebody else, and it's also not valued as much as if they paid for it. As an example, that 10-day retreat that you don't get to talk, I could not make it 10 days, I'm afraid. But you paid money for that, so you valued it.
Well, I will say this. That's the beauty of the Vipassana centers for anybody that does want to investigate that. And that is the beauty. It is by donation. And that was a thing that really blew my mind. But it is about the energy. And it's exactly what you're saying. Energy has to be given to receive. A lot of people that are having struggles in their life, a lot of it does stem from their inability to receive, and receive graciously and happily. Some people have a block with that. And so the truth is, I made my meditation course because I simply couldn't accommodate the amount of people that I'm trying to help. And so I sell it for like a nominal fee on my website. In 2019, I started charging for it simply because my store closed. It was just, anyway, it's a whole long story. We went online, and then COVID happened, and the whole retail
Yep.
world for me disappeared. If anybody understands what happened to the clothing business, and you may notice that you see less and less bricks and mortar stores in clothing
Yep.
specifically. So that thing that I had been able to earn my whole life kind of went away. So I thought this would be a good thing. But I will say this: you learn this in Vipassana, that it is an energy exchange. And so when you go up there, you give a donation, and they are very specific about it. They tell you, do not give an amount that hurts. Give an amount that you can freely give. So for some people, it's $1,000. For some people, it's $50. For some people, it's nothing, I'm sure. And everybody has a different number that you think, okay, you know what? This is not difficult for me to give. That you give your donation in privacy, like anonymously, so nobody knows how much you gave or what you gave, unless you do it by Visa. But if you want to bring cash, it's in an envelope. There's no name on it, etc. And then what they like you to do is volunteer. And so I really learned about, but again, there's no pressure on it either. But this is funny, Kevin, and you'll appreciate it, because that's when I really understood this whole exchange of energy and
Yeah.
why it's important that we give and we receive. When I'm up there, at one point, the whole place runs on volunteers, by the way, because think about it. There's 80 people up there. We stay in very nice places. It's rustic, but it's very lovely, very well appointed, beautiful showers, nice place to sleep. The grounds are gorgeous. The food is spectacular. It's all vegetarian, but it's delicious. and your place is cleaned every day, and you're up there, and I'm thinking, and there's all these volunteers that are actually able, that are the reason you can come up there and have all of this happen. And I remember, um, I literally did, because I'm a kind of, I've been in retail my whole life and a bit of a business person. I remember thinking, why would these volunteers be coming up here? Like, they must be crazy. Like it's one thing to take 10 days out of your life to sit in this course and learn it, but it's a whole nother thing to be up here and you're just serving the other people. And I thought that just was strange to me. I thought, what kind of people are doing this? And then after I went up there and volunteered, it hit me like, here's the beauty of this meditation and why I am on a mission, because it's a collective energy. The reason that people go up there to volunteer is because you have these 80 students that are in this 10-day course that are doing the work, we call it. They are doing the meditation, the difficult work, and you, in serving them, are actually receiving it. So people have stories, people have like you can even, your health feels better. Like, so even though you're up there serving the other people, you are actually receiving this beautiful energy from 80 people that are up there meditating. And it's the most beautiful 10 days that you can have, is to go up there and volunteer. And so I literally experienced the energy exchanging, like coming from them and coming into me. And that's why they have no problem getting volunteers. People, there's like a list of trying to get on there so that you can go up and volunteer, so that you can actually, and it's easier, by the way, because you're not sitting in that really, like, even though you're sitting in meditation as a volunteer, you're not doing 14 hours a day. You're only doing like 3 or 4. And so, but you're receiving the benefits of these people that are grueling away, if you will. And so that is a huge part of this world, is that the energy, because we are energy. We are nothing but energy. The body comes and goes. We know this. Thoughts come and go. The breath comes and goes, but there is an essence, a spirit of that is you, that does never comes and goes. It's just there, and it is energy. And so this energy is constantly moving, and that's why I always say to people, why fight an uphill battle when you can get into this energy world, and and it's just easier. It's as simple as that. It's just an easier way to live. It's a more beautiful way to live. The reason that I believe this is my contribution to peace in the world is not so much just teaching it, but finding peace myself. And that's why I'm doing this, not so much to teach it, but I feel that if every person could just find the peace within themselves, the problems would be solved. And
Yeah.
so instead of trying to say, oh, I'm going to make my city more peaceful, or I'm going to make this person more peaceful, I don't look at it like that. I am just being at my search for peace, my discovery of peace within myself is the contribution to the collective peace. That's how I believe it works.
That's the only way it works. There is no, the day of the guru is dead, and there's no time when you can have somebody else or you impact a large group of people. They're going to do what they want to do, and it's up to each of us to take care of ourselves and to promote those things that we want others to do by doing that ourselves. And then we become a shining example for other folks,
Yes.
like what you're doing. And that really is all you can do, because you can maybe influence somebody, but you can't make them be different than they're going to be, and and the stories that they've told themselves. We all have different stories that come from our youth and from the people, like people said that you weren't good looking enough. I have to tell you, you have exquisite energy. You're a beautiful human being, and you need to be treated as such. And to hear stories that people tell us that, um, they're inconsequential. They don't mean anything, because you are that special human being, and what you're doing is going to and is having an impact in everyone you touch, and that's all you can do.
Oh, thank you for that.
And it's like what I do. All I do is I I call it my, this is my selfish pleasure, because I get to talk to incredibly talented people who have got this amazing energy, and then we have a really cool energy exchange during the show, and it actually lifts me up. I can come into one of these shows and be tired and be grumpy, and I don't want to, but then by the time the show's over, I feel refreshed. It's like taking a nice shower, or a great meditation or something like that, because of the quality of the human experience that we can have together and exchange energy together is unbelievably exciting to me.
Yes, I agree. There is nothing better than being in touch with people of a certain energy. Um, I I mean, if somebody walks into a room and they're miserable, as an example, you can feel that right away. Like all of a sudden, a dark cloud has taken over the room. And when somebody comes in and they've got great energy, all of a sudden everybody feels better. It's always been that way at work. Like even when I did retail stores, like that was part of the key of my success. Although at the time I did not know this is what it was.
Right.
But when I look back, because I go, how come every time I took over a store, it just did so much better? Because I would put together a team of people that had positive energy, and they weren't people that were negative. Oh, we're not going to do well today. Oh, you know what? It's raining. No customers are going to come. You know, like I always hired the people that thought it was going to be a good day. In fact, that's what I looked for when I interviewed people. People say, "Oh, I want somebody with 6 years retail experience." I'd never looked at that. I always said, "I want a person who thinks it's all going to go well." you know, and yeah,
Yep.
and if I interview somebody and they have that sort of idea that they think that it's going to be a good day, then generally speaking, they will influence not only the other people that you're working with, but even customers. Have you ever walked into a store and the people are miserable in there, and you can feel it? Like they don't even want you there. There's no please. There's no thank you. They don't give you eye contact. Like the energy is not positive. And so that's why I do love the name of your thing. It's just being positive. Is important, and that's one of the things that helps you with meditation. It literally will have you, like I used to suffer from a negative attitude. I was raised by somebody. I had actually fantastic parents, but my mother was a very famous negative person. Like in fact, like she was wonderful and I loved her, but like she was so negative, it was like comical. And that's why like she was funny, and she was a great mom, but her negativity was like shocking, like and so I had that, in me. It was just I can only explain it. I felt negative. I was worried. I was a worrier, like a lot of those things. And so meditation has literally shifted that and caused me to just have a more positive attitude, I guess, or a positive outlook, or maybe you could say it's hope, that type of a thing.
Well, I agree with you. Now, I had a different experience because I was in the restaurant business, and as a general manager, normally speaking, what happens is I had several assistants, and I had a chef, and I had 70 people that worked for us, and we had, like 40 or 50 people on Friday night that are all be working and stuff. And generally, the manager goes wandering through and says, "Look at me, I'm the general manager, and look at all these people that I can control." That's not what I did. As a matter of fact, they gave me a plaque after when I was leaving that said, because every Friday and Saturday night, I would walk through the kitchen. I would walk through before the people got there, the customers got there, and I would say, "It's Friday. It's Friday. We're gonna be busy. That's great, isn't it?" And I would go through and have this thing that they even put it on the plaque. We're gonna be busy, and because I was incessant with that, because I wanted to pump everybody up with positive energy that we are going to have a fucking spectacular night, and everybody's going to make a lot of money. The customers are going to leave happy. Then we're going to go have a beer afterwards, and we're going to say thank you for the whole thing, and it worked
Yeah,
because people want to be led by positive people.
I agree with you. I feel that you definitely have that. The first time I talked to you, like that was just all I needed. I was like, you exude positivity, and you do seem like that kind of a person, and it makes a person likable and attractive, and that to me is so key. And yeah, it's completely, I'm sure everybody that listens to you feels the same way. It's noticeable and appreciated.
Well, I really appreciate you coming and talking with me today. You are special in your own right as well, and we all are, and we all deserve to have uh, people appreciate what we do and who we are, and even people that are not there yet. They will get there. I'm
Yeah.
convinced that everybody, if you choose to, again, it's your choice. And I like to say, if it ain't this time, it'll be next time. But
Yeah.
eventually, you're gonna figure out that what you want is to lead a happy life, and if you do, the folks around you will also lead a happier life. And so you
Yes.
become infectious to everybody around you, and then that's when meaningful change happens, I think.
Yeah. I always say, as soon as you've had enough, like like that's to me how when change happens, when you just can't take it anymore. So sometimes somebody will come to me and they'll be like, oh, well, I want to be more like this, but I can't, or I haven't. I go, well, you're just not sick and tired enough yet. Like once you've had enough and you can't take it anymore, you will make the changes. That's just the way it works,
Yeah, who is it that said once you're sick and tired enough of being sick and tired,
Yeah.
you'll decide to fix it.
That's what happens, right? And I would say that's even for myself. I told you I hit a brick wall. I didn't even know that, this part of life existed, but I hit a brick wall, and I had to pull myself together. And so, some people takes hitting to a rock bottom to do what they have to do. So that's fine. That's part of this journey. And yeah.
That is exactly part of the journey, and it's like I keep telling you about my bad country music song time. It happens to everybody, and this is after I did the radio show for a year, and I thought that, but so many things were out of sync. The energy of the people around me when I went into it were out of sync with the people that I met during it, and so their energy, the people I met during it, was a lot higher than even my wife, friends, family. They're like, "What the hell are you doing this for? You had a good job. You could have you could have done and now you're doing this. There's no guarantee that you're going to be successful doing this. You're crazy. You're friggin' crazy." And I'm sure that you've been told that in your life as well. And so it wasn't until all those people left, because we no longer synced energetically, that now I have a group of people around me who I will die for, because they are high energy, high happiness people. And that's who I choose to hang out with. And people like you that are happy, and then we can have a great conversation and a great time. But sometimes it takes going through that to get to the other side, and then to let it all go. And you said it's on your website. I saw it. Just let it all go and be, and it'll all come to you. I guarantee it. It'll come to you. It may not be exactly how you think it's going to be,
Yeah.
but it will come to you as it's supposed to happen.
Yeah, I would say it probably almost would most definitely not come how you think it should come. It will come better than what you could have imagined. Like
Yep.
the things that I've done have turned out way better than I could have actually imagined. Even stories that I did back in the day, like my story that I did, as I said, like I planned this one thing and another thing happened. So it's always better than what you could imagine. And so I think that's part of it. Just kind of detaching from the outcome and just doing your thing.
Exactly. By the way, if somebody wants to contact you, how do they get that done?
Well, they can contact me. I have a website, as you mentioned, Hamilton Meditation Group.com or .ca. Allison Liss at Gmail. You can email me. My phone number is on my website, by the way. I have no problem taking calls. I answer it all the time. Oh, I have a podcast. If I could kindly let people know about my podcast, that's
Of
Allison
course.
Liss. Yeah, Allison Liss Meditation. and it's on Spotify and everywhere you find podcasts. And I give a lot of practical information, I would say, on the podcast, like things that you can actually do that will shift your energy, that are things that I've learned and had when I've been meditating. But you don't, and oh, you had said something earlier about meditation. One of the big myths I find too is that people think that they have to do this meditation a half an hour in the morning, a half an hour at night, and it has to be done on a regular basis. Although there are those of us that do that, the path to become that does not necessarily have to start like that. And so on my Allison Liss meditation podcast, I give a lot of tips and things that you can do for 1 minute in a day, 2 minutes in a day, that you will definitely see results. Like, I literally guarantee this stuff, because I don't, one thing with me is I talk about things I have experienced, and I have seen other people experience it. Like, I this stuff is tried, true, and tested, what I tell people to do. If I'm not sure something's going to work, I won't really mention it. So I give each of my episodes on my podcast are a practical tip that a person can do. Anybody can do it, any age. And they're little manipulations of energy, I call it. And you'll start seeing kind of miraculously just beautiful circumstances coming into your life in weird synchronistic ways.
It happens all the time. It is, I've got story after story after story of things that were not supposed to happen. They just did. And it's just, it really is remarkable. When you step back and then you watch everything unfold in front of you, it really is a powerful experience, because you get to see the workings of all my guides and the people on the other side and my family and everybody. They're all in cahoots to try and make what I really want to have happen. And so, but it's not necessarily how I, as a human, think in my logical brain how it's supposed to happen. It may be, well, I'll give you an example. It just is happening right now. There's a gal who has got a couple of kids they're called Sisters J. And they're a musical group. I highly recommend, if you really like these people, they're really cool people. And anyway, their moms, they're called Sisters J, and you can go to Sisters J and look at some of their videos and stuff. But they're really cool people, and their mom is also a cool people. She's also a really cool lady, and she works with special needs kids. She's actually gone to the government to try and change laws for autistic kids and that sort of thing. And so I had her on a show last week, and I've had them on like 3 or 4 or 5 times. Well, apparently they really like me and like the show. And so she said, "Have you thought about syndication?" And I said, "Well, yes, I've been trying to figure out how to syndicate Positive Talk Radio so that it can have a broader reach, because I really feel like I owe it to you. You've taken the time, you've taken an hour and preparing for it and stuff. I owe it to you to get you the biggest reach I possibly can. That's my mission, is to get great people like you to be heard by a ton of people, because then that's the change that I will initiate, is not from me, it is through you and the things that you're going to offer people." And so that's important. So she said, "Yeah, I just ran into somebody that's a syndicator, and he's looking for programs, and here's his number." So going into that, I had no expectation that was going to happen. I've been talking about it in my mind for a long time. So it suddenly happened. So I turn to my guides, which I often do, and say, "Hey, guys, thanks. Thanks for leading me in the right direction." So it happens all the time, and I'm sure it happens to you too.
Well, it's happening for everybody. Like, we're co-creating all the time, but there is something cool about the experience if you're aware of it, so that's the fun part for people like yourself, is being that you're aware of it. So it does make the ride a lot of fun, but everyone's doing that, whether you are aware of it or not.
Yep.
You're in a co-creation with the universe, and so when you become aware of that, that's what's happening, it does add to the fun of this life. Yeah.
And there are no coincidences. Everything is by divine plan, in my humble opinion. Even the not so good things, because there have been people that have written books about their not so good life that they're now is turned into an exceptional life, and that can be a blueprint for somebody else. But had they not gone through that, they couldn't write the book to help somebody else.
Yeah, so, I would say every exceptional life has that story.
I agree. Everybody I've talked to, and I've talked to a bunch. Allison, I got to tell you, it's a pleasure having you. You're 3 hours ahead of me. It's now time for dinner over at your house, or it's past time for dinner. And I want to thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's been awesome. I love talking to you. It's been great. And happy Thanksgiving to you. And I really appreciate it, Kevin. Thanks for having this conversation with me.
Is there anything that you'd like to tell our audience before we go?
Don't just stand there. Do nothing.
Huh? What do you mean? That's right. That's a bumper sticker. You know what I mean?
That's my tagline, Kevin. Yeah.
That's a great. Don't just stand there. Do nothing.
Yeah.
Because doing nothing is something.
It's everything.
That's even better. That's 2 bumper stickers. We've created 2. So I want to thank Allison for being here. Go to our website again, hamiltonmeditationgroup.ca or .com, and find out all about her and learn how to meaningful meditate in a positive way that will, and dare I say, it can change your life. So, Allison, thank you so much for being here. If you wait right there, I'll be right back. Hey, thanks for enjoying this episode all the way to the end. Please give us a like and subscribe to this channel. This has been a production of PositiveTalkRadio.net. Please visit our website, oddly named PositiveTalkRadio.net, for more details about us and our mission, which is to provide great positive programming designed to inspire us all. I'm Kevin McDonald, and I'm proud of these shows, and I truly hope that you'll like them and share them with friends and family. So on behalf of our entire team, remember, be kind to one another, because each other